Today on Fresh Vintage, we got our 2016 Subaru Forester. We got our PowerStop upgrade we're going to throw on the actual Forester here. We have our tools, we got our quick jack. Let's get started right now. So just like we said in the intro there, we have ourselves some PowerStop upgrades. This fits 2014 through 2018 Foresters, and there's two specific submodels. I say that because there's I believe a turbo 2-liter and then a 2.5 liter. And you wouldn't think that that makes a difference on brakes, but we actually have a whole other set of brakes for the other model. So if you need some, we'll leave the link to the eBay listing in the video description here. But that being said, we're going to work on getting the car lifted up. You can see we already have that done. This is our quick jack. Take a look at this thing. If you haven't seen our video on our other channel, Fresh Vintage Garage, really solid setup we have here. This is the TL7000. We mentioned that because this thing's ALI certified. It is not a cheap lift per se. If you don't have a quick jack, no worries at all. Just get yourself some jack stands, probably a floor jack, maybe two, just to be safe, so you can keep the car sturdy and safe so it's not going anywhere. Let me just show you this quick jack real quick because it is, I mean, I'm trying. The keys are wiggling in there, and it'd take a lot to knock this over, so it's a very sturdy setup. If you've never heard of a quick jack, definitely check it out on our other channel, Fresh Vintage Garage. But we're going to get started. We're going to pull the wheel off here, and we're going to do everything on the driver's side, and we won't show you the passenger side, but it's basically rinse and repeat on that side. Have our trusty Aoben here. It does have a Chicago pneumatic. We just put a 19mm socket on there. And the joke I make is when I think of quality sockets, I think of Aoben. But all joking aside, these are okay for side of the road, but they might tear up your lug nuts or something. So we just went with the Chicago pneumatic. Not a bad way to go. I'm going to take these lug nuts off. These are torqued to 80 foot-pounds, so I think this should have enough oomph. There we go. Whoops. Don't be the guy that goes in a circle. Now we bought this thing off of Amazon for like $60. It was on sale. It's kind of neat because it has a stop. You heard it auto stop, and I make that note because it just won't sit there and spin the lug nuts off, so they roll off somewhere under the car. But we'll take this off and we'll show you what the brakes look like next. So now that we have the wheel off, you can see the rotor. It's not bad. It could be better, but that's why we're doing the brake swaps. So they're okay, but they could be better. So. That being said, what we need to do is take the bolts out of the caliper, and then just wanted to show you this real quick. We have hooks here. You could use a bungee cord too. If you have a bungee cord, you don't have these, but this is some Arcan brand. You can find these all over the place. We'll leave a link for these in the video description. But we're just hanging this on the coil spring just so that this isn't dangling off of the brake line and messing up your brake line. But let me grab my ratchet here. That's a 14mm gear wrench, and so, whoops, that's tight and went the wrong way with it there. Just want to break these loose. There we go. That was pretty loose, actually. There we go. So we'll work on getting that one off there. There we go. Ooh, I just found a leaf. Look at that. Yeah, piece of a leaf. All right, we'll get these out of here, and we will hang the caliper on that hook in just a moment. So we have our caliper on that S-hook, and it's just going to hang right there. That brake line is nice and loose. And from there, we can easily get to our brake pads. Nothing major here. Just take your time. I'm sure most everyone watching the video has done this before, but if you've never done this before, these are, they're probably about 2/3 used, maybe 3/4 used. So you could get another year out of them. But I would say why not just replace them. Don't be the person who's waiting until your brakes are like, why am I hearing this metal grinding? That's because your brakes are trash. So don't be that person. Get yourself some brakes. Get them changed sooner. There's the other one. It's a little bit less, but not much. So for most, I'd say most foreign cars, I say that because I've had Subarus, I've had other Hondas, and they all have an actual caliper bracket bolt. So this won't come off. The actual rotor won't come off unless we take the caliper bracket off, and there's, I believe these are 17s, but we're going to grab the sockets and see how big these are. We got a 17mm wrench, and we got an 18 just to add some extra torque, because this bolt, take a look at this down in here. I just, for the life of me, could not get that socket and that extension to work in there. So I'm gonna, fingers crossed, break this free right now without actually breaking my hand or anything. So there we go, perfect. Literally spent 10 minutes getting that to where we could break it free. But we're going to get this caliper bracket off of here momentarily, and then we'll get the rotor off next. So here's our 17mm. The other one's right off my shoulder there. There's our caliper bracket bolts, or sorry, bolt and caliper bracket, sorry. And I was just thinking, oh, I'll just pull this off of here. And weird thing, it's, you know, there's supposed to be screws in here. And I've rubbed my hands, my fingers here. I'm like, well, maybe they're hidden because of the dust or something. But I don't see what's holding this on other than literally just friction and rust. So we're going to grab the hammer. Thank you, sir. And we're going to destroy our eardrums right now. And fingers crossed, this won't take too much hammering. So I wanted to mention that we tried small hammer and no PB blaster, and these were pretty well stuck on there. So we just shot some PB blaster here, and we got a little bit bigger hammer, and that was just enough to get the job done because you can see they're moving. So I'm going to turn it a little bit. There we go. And that thing was stuck on there. I was hammering pretty good with this other hammer, but bigger hammer and PB blaster got the job done. So take this off, and also don't forget your catch tray because you don't want to put that crap into the ground. Here's our rotor. And, you know, it's not bad. Aside from me hammering on it, you can see where I damaged it, but it's okay. Would you leave it on your car if you had to? Yes. But should you replace it? Absolutely. Which is why we're doing this, because these are, how many years are these? They're originals. So, but we'll get this cleaned up. We'll get the other one, get my hands cleaned up too, and we'll put the PowerStop rotor and pads on here in just a moment. So new shiny rotor. You'll notice with the PowerStop they make it pretty much dummy proof front driver's side, so that's where we're at. We're going to hit it with some brake cleaner, and again, do your best to not get this in the ground, blah blah blah. And you don't have to use quite as much as I'm using, but I was touching these earlier with my grubby hands, so to speak. So, and just for some commentary, you see there's holes here, or like little circles. We think they're supposed to be screws because these are threaded, but there's no actual screws in this. So you'll probably have screws, but we don't have any. I'm guessing they most likely broke them off in the hub or something, but I'm just going to wipe this rotor down just to get one little extra layer of any potential gunk off of there, and I'm going to take that back off of there. It doesn't hurt, just to make it a little bit cleaner. And we'll just throw it back on there. And with that in place, we'll work on putting our caliper bracket back on. So here is our caliper bracket, and if you've never done a brake job before, you know, you veterans, you know this, you know the drill here, but these are what the actual brake pads sit in, and sometimes they get pretty darn, wow, that thing is stuck on there. There we go. So just go ahead and make sure you don't do what I just did, because now I'm sitting here wondering which side, oh, there, okay, so there's a side, there's a thing, like a tab on each side, so do this. Now those should, in theory, click into place. Takes a little bit of effort sometimes. Go. And the upper one, I believe the upper one was, yeah, this was the upper one. There you go. And forgive me, that took a little bit longer than I thought it would. So there's that. And now you want to grease these, but I want to mount this on the actual hub assembly first. So we're going to grab our 17 millimeters, and you can see I just popped that back out of there. So now we need to torque our caliper bracket bolts to 59 foot-pounds. And big shout out to Harbor Freight for sending this over. We saw them at SEMA and like, hey, we're doing a brake job. Can you send this to us? And they you know, happily did. So thank you for this. Really, really awesome. Comes in a really nice case. It actually has a plastic see-through, so you can see if someone grabbed your torque wrench or not. But it has a little dial on the side. So we set it to 59 foot-pounds, and then this actually flips up and holds that in place. And I'm just looking at it. Yep, it didn't change. The challenge we have is the same challenge we had getting that top bolt broke free. Is now we're trying to contend with getting this around the strut bolt head. So I have those tightened down as much as I can, by hand I should say. And I'm guessing at some point I may have to stand up for this, because 59 foot-pounds isn't that much, because this thing's pretty long, but it's definitely going to take a little bit of effort. Oh, it just clicked. Now, this does give you the ability to do this. It's a little, it's kind of flexible. You can see it's got a little bit of flex, but I don't know if that's actually going to help us here. And I will say, of all the things I thought we would be contending with today, this bolt hitting bolt head kind of thing is not one of them, to be honest. So I'm going to tighten that down. Okay, so what we're struggling with here is you can see that head bolt there and this head are just too close together. We ended up using a couple different things. We have an extension, and then I put a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter. And you're not going to get exactly 59 foot-pounds. You're going to lose some torque across that length. So we just threw the wrench back on it and gave it an extra little hit. But ultimately, those two bolts have to be at 59 foot-pounds. And so from here, what we want to do is open up our PowerStop lubricant, grease these up, break out our new brake pads, and then install them. So we're ready to put our new pads on, and you throw these on the ground and you forgot all about them and you're like, oh shoot, which one goes where and how? What we're going to do is take and identify the actual piston circles here, and then this is the actual outside of this. So if you think about that caliper sitting here, your pistons are on the inside, so this one's on the inside, so that means you need to match these. Oops, if I can get it right. So this one needs to go on the inside, and then the other one actually needs to sit on the other side. So that is like that. And so we're going to install these onto the actual caliper bracket. So if we take a look down here, you can see what we did. It took a little bit of effort, and I had to fight because you're fighting a few things. This is new, and you got to squeeze the brake pad in, which is a pretty common thing, but you also have to fit all of this in and make sure everything's happy. So doing that on both sides took a little work, and the rotor is also sitting a little cockeyed because it doesn't have the wheel mounted to it. But we got all of that done. So what I'm going to do now is grab our caliper and work on putting this back on. But before we do that, we actually have to push the pistons in so that it's wide enough so it can accommodate the new rotor and the thickness of the new brake pad. So we're going to grab our actual tool for that and push those pistons back in. So if you've never actually used one of these, this is a tool that pushes the piston, or in this case we have two pistons, back in, and what you're doing is basically pushing your brake fluid back up into your brake fluid reservoir. So we took a look at ours. It feels to be good. It's not full right now, but you got to remember, if you're pushing fluid back up into that actual reservoir and it's already full, it may go past the seal on the cap and start leaking out into your engine bay. So give it a quick look before you do this. But we have the old brake pad set up, so we're just going to slowly work on pushing this in. And if we sped this up, you would see where those would go back in. But we're just going to finish this off camera, and then the next shot will be us installing this back onto the bracket. So forgive our little bit of a mini saga off camera. We successfully broke this handle. You can see the cracks in it there. And then we have another one from a power built kit. We broke that handle trying to turn these down. So we went out and we got ourselves a C-clamp, and these are widely available. You can get them all over the place. But this had enough oomph and structural integrity, to be honest, to push. We ended up having to go back and forth pushing these down because you're pushing two pistons at the same time. And we couldn't get the C-clamp centered properly because of this and the banjo bolt on the other side. But all that to say, they are pushed in now, and this is a great time if you look close. You just want to look in here, look for rust. I mean, they're rusty, but they're not wet. The wet is the telltale. If you see wet, that is a potential issue because these seals are probably leaking. But we're nice and dry in here, so in theory, this should slide right over just like that. And something else you want to watch for are these sliders. They're both moving. You could replace those if you wanted, but they're both moving very nicely. So we're going to make sure they're pushed in because that bottom one actually was fighting me. It wouldn't let me slide that in. And we'll get the 14 millimeters in here right now. So we are back to the ratchet and 14 millimeter here. We have our bolts in. I did throw some anti-seize on them. You can find that at pretty much any parts store, or if you want to buy using our link in the video description, you can. But put the lube on there so that it actually will stay tight, but also come back apart and not fight you in a couple years if you have to do your brakes again, kind of thing. So we're just going to tighten these down. I already took the liberty to make sure they are going in straight and they're not cross-threading. You'll definitely feel them if they start cross-threading because they immediately, like a turn in, they start getting hard, and you don't want that. So we'll just crank these down. 19 foot-pounds if I remember correctly. So we don't actually have a torque wrench. The Harbor Freight one you saw earlier in the video, it doesn't go down to 19. I think it goes to 40 is the lowest it goes to. So we're just going to tighten these up, and we'll say it's tight, 19 foot-pounds, but if you're actually using a torque wrench, definitely torque them down to 19 foot-pounds. I'm going to say that's tight enough. especially knowing the torque I put on that other one to achieve 59 foot-pounds. Yeah, that's tight. And now this is where just, oops, another awesome job by Subaru here, putting the brake line right in way of that bolt head. So this is where I just want to spin this, and that's exactly what you want, because you have a caliper that can still float, it can still move around, it's not locked up, and you know it's not locked up because the rotor is actually turning. And granted, we turn the wheel so we get to the back brake pad. But if this won't spin by hand, you need to stop what you're doing, take it back apart, because something's not happy. Something is binding, and if you try to drive it, you're just going to end up tearing your brand new brakes up. So that being said, we're going to throw the wheel back on, and we'll show you any issues on the passenger side, but we won't show you the passenger side. It's literally the same thing, but we'll jump to the end of the video now, minus any actual issues that come up on the passenger side. So what's a torque stick, you ask? I'm glad you asked that question, because that's exactly what we have here. We have a 90 foot-pound torque stick, and earlier in the video we were talking about torque loss in a in a torque wrench situation, where you have 90 foot-pounds here or 120 foot-pounds here. You're going to lose some, and that's exactly how they engineered this. You're intentionally losing torque, and they make this specific diameter so that you end up with 90 foot-pounds here at the end. So we've already torqued this down, but as you deliver torque to this, you're going to have 90 foot-pounds at the actual lug nut. Now, we've already hit those once, but we're going to hit the actual brake pedal, and we're going to torque these down to 90 foot-pounds. We have the Icon unit set to 90 foot-pounds here. It's technically 89 foot-pounds is the exact measurement, but you're not going to be able to get 89 foot-pounds exactly on here. So we're going to hit the brakes, click these once each, and then we're going to jump over to the passenger side. So wrapping up the video here, we have the new rotor on, the new brake pads on, and just a quick recap, this is turning real smooth, real easy. You can hear, you know, moving, dragging a little bit, but that's natural. It's not like locked up. So if you can't turn them like that by hand, definitely stop what you're doing, take it back apart, because something's not 100%. But that being said, our actual caliper bolts are at 19 foot-pounds, nice and torqued up. Our caliper bracket bolts are at 59 foot-pounds. We put a little extra oomph on them with the wrench, so they're good to go. But we're good to go here. This is happy. The caliper is moving back and forth. It is floating pretty well. Looking at all this, just make sure you, as a new PowerStop brake owner, read the manual, because there is like a heat treat, like a set procedure. You have to go to like 35 to 0 and a couple other procedures so many times. And that's all spelled out in the manual, so you properly break these things in so they can last you for a lifetime kind of thing. That being said, we appreciate you watching. And now that you've got your brakes on your car, you too can be a certified fresh vintage mechanic. And if you like classic cars, if you like muscle cars, if you like keeping your cars fixed up and certified fresh and on the road, Fresh Vintage, your channel, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.